I do love me a good isometric action game, especially if it just so happens to be of the twin-stick shooter variety. So when Beacon arrived in my inbox, I was immediately intrigued. It's all of the above, but it's also a roguelike, or perhaps a roguelite, as although it sends you back to the beginning when you die, you'll likely be going back with a little extra oomph. You see, in Beacon well, there's no other way of saying it, you're dead. Your character died when she crashed on an alien planet, but her consciousness appears to have been kept alive by a computer, which is then transferred to cyborg constructs that are sent out to explore the world, usually by shooting most things. As you explore the world, you'll probably pick up one or two DNA modifiers, which can then implant in your next incarnation's cybernetic body. Basically, this means that when you die, you have the potential to come back stronger and faster than before. It's not quite that simple though, as sometimes changing the sequence of your DNA can have unforeseen consequences. This is thanks to random mutations that can occur during DNA sequencing before each run. On my first adventure, I was unfortunately cursed with some kind of defect that meant that I couldn't wield two-handed weapons, which can seriously restrict your firepower, especially when I was having to leave behind miniguns and various other beefy-looking weapons. I eventually had to start a completely fresh run, because in its early access form, Beacon has some issues with stability, which I'll come back to in a moment. In my second run, I had much better luck with my DNA sequencing and subsequent mutations, leading to being faster and more agile. Not to mention replacing the default dodge roll with a rather snazzy dash move, which is nice. As I say though, being in early access means that you have to take the bad with the good, and Beacon has its fair share of bad. I lost my entire first run, thankfully only a short one, when I was met with an infinite loading screen upon trying to reload my game. It's a fairly big issue, but it's one of those things that you have to accept when playing a game as it's being developed, especially at such an early stage. It also has trouble with the in-game settings menu, which has a tendency to refuse to let you close it. Annoying when you just wanted to tweak the volume or check the controls, and only an Alt F4 will fix it. Not that rebooting a game can be called a fix, mind. The beauty of early access, however, is knowing that a lot of these issues will eventually be fixed somewhere along the development road. The earlier the better in the case of these particular problems. But how does Beacon play? Okay, you can see for yourself what's going on in the game, but the best way for me to describe it is that it's a cross between a twin-stick shooter and Diablo 3. The left stick moves your character and the right stick aims, though you're actually moving the reticle around the screen directly like a mouse cursor, rather than the traditional method. It sounds weird, and honestly, that's because it is. But, once you get used to it, it feels right somehow, more precise. You'll explore the various levels that are randomly generated, following waypoints that will lead you to the next checkpoint pod. You'll fight bosses and do your best to survive battles with the local wildlife and the robots that appear to have made this mysterious planet their home. Not to mention the various weather patterns that do their best to fry your current body's circuits, or simply blow you to pieces. Everything is fast-paced, and you're often ambushed by enemies that appear to respawn at random. There's very little respite in Beacon. When you do get into a scrap, you'll need to keep moving and dodging, much like Diablo. Instead of magic and spectacular abilities, however, your arsenal is made up of the various weapons you find and the odd grenade or special item. These aren't plentiful though, so you'll want to save things like proximity mines and targeted lightning strikes for boss fights or when you are surrounded by overwhelming forces. As much as I love the isometric viewpoint, it does come with some perspective issues when you're forced to do some light platforming. Even worse when you don't actually have a jump button and have to rely on the dodge roll to get you across those gaps. And let me tell you, that dodge roll is not precise. Even less so when it's being replaced by a dash move. I genuinely fell off a ledge at one point because the perspective hid the drop from me. So yeah, Beacon has its problems, but they're mostly outweighed by the excellent gameplay. With that in place early, it's good to know that developer Monothetic has the most important part in place already, meaning there's plenty of time to fix problems and give everything else a good polish before its full release in late 2019.